Let's recap last night's Spurs loss to the Thunder. Is Devin Vassell making strides? And let's talk about you, the fan, your YouTube Locked On Spurs fan comments.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the San Antonio Spurs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you all back. Hope everybody's having a great day. And you're at work, well, we'll get you through it right here on Locked On Spurs. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Get yourself this code, which is all lowercase, Locked On NBA, for a first deposit match up to $100. And yeah, you guys are the everydayers. Thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first visit each and every day. And check us out. Subscribe to us on Locked On Spurs on YouTube. So about last night, yeah. Oof. You know, it was built up for, Wemby versus Chet, and Wemby won that battle. We'll mention that in a few seconds. But overall, as far as just the team against OKC, not a pretty night. Your Spurs lost to the Thunder 140-114. It was a blowout. It got ugly. It really was just more, I think for most of, even for Thunder fans, I think it just turned into, okay, let's see how Wemby and Chet do. They did kind of give us a little bit of that late in the fourth period. But outside of that, it was just a lopsided win for the Thunder. Spurs got trounced. Now, the Spurs were not out of it yet. The first quarter, they were still hanging in there, only losing by 35-28 after the first. And they were still in it, at halftime. But that third quarter, well, let's just get into it. Takeaway number one, what happened to the third quarter? The Spurs lately have been beating teams in the third period, keeping them in games, keeping them competitive. Was not the case last night versus the Thunder. The Thunder outscored them 37-24. The way they came out of the second half and that third period really set the tone for the rest of the game. Despite being down at half, nevertheless, the Spurs were still in it. They weren't getting the breaks beat off them, but that really set the tone, and they look just really defeated. So takeaway number one is, hopefully the trend is not going back to poor third quarters. Takeaway number two, what can we talk about? Just how hot shooting the Thunder were. This is how bad defensively the Spurs were. OKC scored a season high 140 points on 56% field goal shooting in the win versus your silver and black. Thunder were just hot. They just could not miss. And you look at some of the shooting percentages, as mentioned, 56% for the Thunder. Spurs shot 50%. 3-pointers, they were just connecting on them. 18 3-pointers for the game for the Thunder, or the Spurs connected on 9. That was pretty much one of the bigger differences right there, is just the shooting. Spurs were unable to find the bucket. Thunder were able to find the bucket. You see the score. You see the outcome. Another L for the Spurs. So takeaway number two is that Thunder were just shooting hot, and the Spurs had no answer for that defensively nor offensively to connect on their own shots. And finally, takeaway number three, Victor won the battle between Chet. The Victor versus Chet battle. Individually, not for the game, but individually, that matchup went to Victor. He finished with 24 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists in 28 minutes, while Chet, he finished with 17 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists in 30 minutes. Keep in mind that Victor was lifted off his minutes restriction somewhat. He was played up to 30 minutes. That's what Pop said pregame. He only played 28, but that was just the fact that it was just a blowout. If it was competitive, I'm pretty sure those minutes would be high. But so individually, Victor won the battle again. Now, Chet's Thunder is up on Wemby Spurs 2-0 in the regular season. But if you're looking at that Roy chase, Rookie of the Year chase, again, Victor separated himself from Chet. It got really, really spicy in that fourth period. You saw those two kind of battling it out together. It looked like a scene from Pacific Rim, when the Jaegers are taking on the Titans, in the battles in the street. That's what it looked like. Victor really was coming at Chet, even tried to just posterize him. He missed it. Even when he did get him with the dunk, he gave him a little bit of an elbow. It got good. And I was hoping that at least continue. At least that will just be some sort of silver lining for the Spurs fan base, just to see Victor just dominate Chet. Unfortunately, that was kind of short-lived, and Chet exited the game, and then Wemby exited the game. Yeah, look, I'd rather that than risk any injury for Wemby. But there you have it, 3 takeaways right there. Spurs lose again. Yeah, it wasn't pretty. Spurs fall to 8-36. They'll next face the Blazers this Friday night for a game 1 of a back-to-back, and then they'll face the T-Wolves, on Saturday night. Coming up next, Michael Jimenez. He is back. We're going to be talking about Devin Vassell, his strides so far this season, and then address some fan Locked On Spurs YouTube comments. And yes, everybody knows, that Jimenez sometimes likes to aim his sights on Sohan, and he brought up Sohan. That's coming up next on Locked On Spurs. Hey, I want to talk to you about Grammarly. When it comes to writing, Grammarly is there to support you from start to finish. For over 10 years, Grammarly has been powered by AI technology that you can trust to help you across all the places where you write the most. And now Grammarly helps you even more. With one click, you can easily and pretty much brainstorm, rewrite, and reply suggestions based on your context and goals so you can improve productivity for you and your teams. Look, I use Grammarly a lot, when it comes to, covering the Spurs, writing for the Spurs. Y'all know I'm a beat writer for Ken's 5. I use Grammarly to help me, create better stories for you about the Spurs. So, yeah, it's come in handy for me, even teaching me along the way of new ways to write and formulate words and make my point come across clearer or for y'all. So, yeah, it definitely helps my productivity. So, when you're stuck with writing at work, Grammarly can help you get started with ideas, outlines, and even tips. For example, they'll improve it, and they'll shorten it, and they'll make it cleaner. And the best part of it is that it's free to use. That's right. So if you got a big presentation coming up, go to Grammarly. Hey, go to Grammarly.com/podcast right now. Download for free today. That's Grammarly, Grammarly.com/podcast. Hey, I want to talk to you about PrizePicks. You want to go to PrizePicks right now, everybody? It's the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest, most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. You have to worry about the sharks, the pros. Look, it's just you versus the numbers. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections. You can start watching those winnings roll in. Look, PrizePicks is the most fun you'll have that I've had. You can possibly win up to 25 times your money, especially this basketball season. Like, you just select 2 or more players, pick 1 or more than less than their projected stats, and you can place your entry. Simple as that. Look, they offer Apple Pay for quick, easy deposits into your account this basketball season. They have weekly promotions, big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections, and they can pay up to 25% to provide even more value. And quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, convenient, user-friendly, enormous selection of players, stat types. Look, that's what just makes PrizePicks the best DFS in the world. Yeah, so I have it. You should get it too. Go to PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA. The code is LockedOnNBA. That'll get you a $100 first deposit match up to $100. So yeah, PrizePicks is daily fantasy sports made easy. And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs, now joined by Michael Jimenez. Make sure to follow him on X at MJ Acquired Taste. He's been gone for a while, but no, it's not because he wasn't invited. He had some personal issues to take care of. Then he gets COVID. Then, there's just a gap between guests, but we finally found a slot for him. Welcome back, Mike.
Hey, man, I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad to have survived COVID, man. It was my first time ever getting it, and those body aches are real.
Jeez, man. Yeah, I remember I got it, and I was like, oof. That second day was a killer for me. But I'm glad you're feeling better. By the way, the nerd wall has expanded since you left. So just a heads up.
Nice.
There's been new additions. But, hey, Jimenez, And by the way, everybody, in case you feels a little rushed right now, Mike has to get off quick. He has some work commitments, so we're going to try to get him on, get him out really fast. But we got a couple topics to discuss with him and you. Vassell, is he making positive strides? And we're going to throw some Locked On Spurs fan comments at his way, get his reaction. This was my reaction coming up next. But first, Devin Vassell, this was his year, Jimenez, to make those strides, to make those leaps. He's going to be that Robin to Wemby's Batman, or at least a while Batman to Wemby's Robin until Wemby got going. The point is, he was supposed to be the 1-2 punch. Is he making those positive strides? Are we seeing that leap in his development?
The short answer is no, we're not seeing the leap. And I think that has kind of jaded a lot of Spurs fans right now. If you follow Spurs Twitter, they seem to be down on Vassell. And I think they're down on Vassell because Vassell had a lot of expectations coming in. Getting a relatively decent-sized extension along the way in the offseason. More was expected of him. And I think that for some reason, Spurs want to roast this guy more than they do Keldon or Jeremy Sohan or whatever the case may be. It's probably because of the extension. I don't think that Vassell has played poorly this year. In fact, if you look at the stats, they're fine. The stats are fine. The problem that you have with Devin Vassell is that when Wemby is off for load management or rest or whatever they call it on those back-to-backs, he doesn't step up. And I think that kind of confuses Spurs fans because, there was a game a few weeks ago against the Bulls where he only had 5 points, and it's one of those things where Wemby's not there. We need you to go on and take 15, 18, 20 shots, lead this team, get this team going offensively. And for some reason, whenever Wemby's not there, it seems to be more like Keldon who wants to take those shots as opposed to Devin Vassell.
You look at Vassell's recent streak of double-figure scoring heading into last night's game versus the Thunder. 4 games in a row, double-figure scoring. 3 of those 4, 20 or more points. I hope he's finding a groove. But for me, why I'm not there to say, yes, he's made that big step yet is because of the inconsistency. He's being consistent right now, but he had, as you mentioned, the Chicago game with 5 points. He followed up with 4 points in a loss to Atlanta. And then he hit a stride right now. I'm glad you brought up Keldon Johnson because sometimes I feel like maybe Keldon is the Robin to Wemby's Batman because Keldon has that heart, that passion. He comes out and he's going to do all he can. But then you look at Keldon's stats, they're up and down as well. So I look at Vassell, though, if you're looking at him and, we're breaking down a little bit further, you look at here, and I got it here for you. Hang on. He went from having a pretty good December, averaging about 18 points per game, 3.4 blocks. But then you go down to this month, they declined 16.8 points per game. And he's doing that in more minutes, but not by a hair. Yeah, 32.1 in December, 32.8 in this month of January. But I look at what Vassell's doing, and I'm not ready to say, like, oh, no, he hasn't made that big stride yet, because there's still a lot of games to be played in this season. We're seeing his recent play. It's been more consistent. But Jimenez, for me, is that consistency. I need to see this more often than not. These streaks of double-figure scoring, these streaks of being a defensive pest, these streaks of being that 1-2 punch with Wemby. I need to see that more often. And so far, I have not really seen that up until recently.
I think it all comes with expectations, which is why the disappointment's there. As you mentioned, Keldon Johnson does have inconsistencies along the way. I don't want to say that Vassell's regressed because he really hasn't. He's more of a plateau than anything else. And because of that plateau, we were hoping that he would take that leap into something bigger and better, going from maybe a 20, 21 point per game kind of guy to maybe a 23, 24 point per game kind of guy. And it's kind of difficult to do that. I mean, you might look at it and think to yourself, well, maybe if the Spurs played an actual point guard the first 20 games of the season, maybe his numbers would look a little bit better. With Trey Jones being out there, the team's offense seems to be a little bit better, but now you have Trey Jones banged up right now. So I think that Vassell has had a decent year, not a leap, but I think that the leap is possible with him in future years. I think there's another gear there that's going to be available to him. It just didn't happen this year like we had all hoped.
No, I hear what you're saying. Maybe next year. I am actually saying it could happen this year. And I think it will. I think he went through an adjustment phase of the new lineup of, adding Wemby, and look, from Pop to the players, everybody said it's been an adjustment trying to figure him out, being Victor. It seems like maybe they have ever since they moved him to the center spot. And now you're seeing the team a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more organized. They're looking for Wemby now more often than not than to start the season. And you look at Devin, and I like Devin. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's a good complementary piece to Wemby. I think if you have to pick a building piece from the roster right now, Vassell will be among those pieces to move on forward with the rebuild and Wemby. For me, though, I like to see him improve on his his free throw attempts. I want to see him get fouled more. I want to see him being more aggressive, picking up those fouls, getting those points. You're looking at the last month and this month. So December, he was averaging 2.6 attempts from the free throw line. This month, it's gone up 3.1. I need to see that higher. And I think he has the ability to penetrate, get those silly fouls from the opposition, and use his athleticism to do that. For me, and he's almost there. I think it'll come this season. I think that'd be a good way for him to really be taking steps in his development.
That's a very good point, Jeff, is that he doesn't have that game to get him those cheap 5, 6, 7 points at the free throw line. I mean, look at other players who play the two position, whether it be, and I know Luka Doncic plays a 1/2. He's kind of more of a combo than anything else. But if you look at let's look at shooting guards from Spurs past. You look at Manu Ginobili. Manu got to the line, right? Manu not only knocked down threes and hit jumpers and created his own shot, he got to the line. And that's the one thing that you're right, that Devin Vassell is missing the most, because he doesn't attack the basket the way Keldon does. He doesn't attack the basket, or he doesn't streak towards the basket like Sohan does, or Keldon or Wemby. So yeah, you're right. That's probably the next evolution, of the next leap that we'll get from Devin Vassell, or hope to get from him, is to get those extra 4, 5, or 6 points per game from the charity stripe.
Yeah,
because he can knock down free throws, man.
Yeah, he definitely knocking out. It's not all doom and gloom. We're not saying that this is a bad season for Vassell. Absolutely not. It's been a really good season. But I think the expectations were just set so high because of the big payday he got in the offseason heading into the new season, and because there was the pairing of him and Wemby. They were going to be the kind of the two pieces to really move forward with. And you look at how he ranks among other, I guess you classify him as a shooting guard, maybe. I don't know how you would classify swingman, I guess.
Yeah.
But when he is in that shooting guard position, he's 9th in 3-point attempts. So he's trying to get those 3-point shots up, and he's 10th in steals at that position when he's at the shooting guard spot. So he does bring a lot of positive impact to the Spurs when the game is up in the ball. I like his intangibles, his passion. I spoke to him about his leadership earlier this season, that he wants to embrace that. And I think he has embraced that. And I've seen him multiple times really talking to the players. I mean, everybody has. Watch the games. You'll see him really getting in people's ears. So I think that he will take this leap. I think it's just going to be sooner than later than you think. But the question is, though, do the Spurs, incorporate him more in, like, kind of like not force feed it, but get these two guys going, Wemby and Devin, get them more chemistry going. I mean, look, the minutes restriction should be lifted off soon for Wemby. I think perhaps that is a time to really say, okay, now we got Wemby, no more minutes restriction. Here we got Vassell, seemingly to be consistent right now as we record this. Let's see these two guys cook on the court.
Well, that's funny, because typically when you see a two-man game involving the center, you have a 1 and a 5 going with each other, or a 2 and a 5. But it seems like the Spurs are more focused on trying to get a two-man game going with Wemby and Jeremy Sohan. We've seen some benefits of that. I mean, I think that Sohan has shown that when he rolls to the bucket, he can finish he has soft hands. He can grab it and lay it up, dunk it, or whatever the case may be. And there's a good two-man game involving Wemby and Sohan. We really haven't seen that with Devin Vassell. And I'm not questioning why that hasn't happened. I do find that the 4-5 thing going on with Wemby and Sohan is actually pretty interesting, and you can see that it's working from time to time. But making that call for Devin, it just seems to me like Devin plays a certain type of game where he's comfortable in certain things, but doesn't want to branch out into doing things that he's not most comfortable with. You know, he has a certain lane of activity that he likes to stay in, and he needs to develop more than what he's got right now. He's a good player. I like Devin Vassell.
Me too.
He is my favorite Spur, not named Victor Wembanyama. I am disappointed this season, but he hasn't played bad. It's almost like we're finding a reason to complain about Devin Vassell as opposed to having a reason for it, a big time reason for it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at just his progression from last season to this year. He's still averaging about the same minutes per game, 31. Did that last season. He's doing it right now. But you're seeing the impact of Wemby. The touches are going to come down. So obviously his point production is going to come down. Last season, 18.5 per game. This season, 17.9. Not too much of a drop off, but still extra touches go to Wemby. But nevertheless, his field goal shooting has gone up. I mean, 43% last year, 46% this year. So yeah, just little by little. But I think once this team gets going, they get churning with Wemby and they get all of this minutes restriction off and whatnot. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll find how he fits and can impact the team much better as the season moves on. Hey, we're not done talking with Mike Jimenez. When we get back, it's going to be about you, the Locked On Spurs fans. We're going to read a couple of your Locked On fan comments left on the YouTube page. We're going to get Mike's reaction. We're going to get my reaction. That's coming up next on Locked On Spurs.
This is Zach Aguilar, the voice of Tanjiro Kamado, and you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Hey, I want to talk to you about Hungry Root. If you're trying to eat a little healthier in 2024, Hungry Root is for you. They'll rescue you from those short-lived resolutions by making meal planning easy and nutritious. Build healthy habits that won't disappear in February with Hungry Root. So whether you're trying to brave the cold or dealing with the crowds or grocery shopping, sucking up time that you need, why do you go through all that? Why do that? Go to Hungry Root right now. Hungry Root will handle all that for you. You can kickstart a week of healthy eating and get groceries delivered right to your door with Hungry Root. Look, they got it all there. You want to save money? You can do that with Hungry Root. Many customers save money on groceries versus the store, as well as eating out less and avoiding expensive takeout and restaurants with Hungry Root. You get a special discount code, 40% off, and free veggies for life, and you reduce food waste. Hungry Root can help you save up to 30% on food waste each week. Saving time? Yeah, you can do that again with Hungry Root. Customers save on average 5 hours per week using Hungry Root without the stress of grocery and meal planning. Hungry Root is the easiest way to get fresh and high-quality food delivered right to your door. They got it all. Healthy groceries, simple recipes, all in one place. You just take a fun, short quiz. Hungry will get to know you, your goals, how you like to eat. They ask you what flavors you like, what kitchen appliances you have, and so much more. And then they'll keep your needs and preferences atop of their mind, and then start building you a cart with delicious recipes, all for your grocery needs for the week. Look, Hungry Root will recommend recipes and groceries based on your taste. Hungry Root goes beyond the weekly groceries haul with thousands of easy recipes that actually put your groceries to good use before they get forgotten in the back of your fridge. Spend less time meal planning, shopping, and cooking, more time enjoying healthy food than you will actually like, like going to love the Hungry Root way. Right now, Hungry Root is offering Locked On Spurs listeners 40% off using the code Locked On. That'll get you delivery and free veggies for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/lockedon. Get 40% off your first delivery and get your free veggies. That's hungryroot.com/lockedon. Don't forget to use that link so they know that we sent you.
This is Emily Swallow, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs, joined by Mike Jimenez. Follow him on X at MJ Acquired Taste. He is with the AlamoCity Sportscast on YouTube. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. And in case it feels a little bit rushed, it's because Jimenez has to go to work. So we're going to keep him short and sweet here on Locked On Spurs. So Jimenez, it's time to dive into some Locked On Spurs YouTube comments. There's one that's coming up, so you know what it is. But we're going to take care of something that it won't put you on a soapbox too easily right away. You just pop off. So the first one comes from Vu, VU. He says, Victor Wembanyama, will be the Rookie of the Year just because he's better than Chet in every way. It's not about the better team. Vic's stats are way better with less playing time, and he's had way more wow moments, 10 times more at least. So thank you, Vic, for that comment. Jimenez, he's picking Chet, he's picking Victor as the Roy winner. But Vegas thinks something else. What do you think?
Well, when the month started, Holmgren was the leader at the clubhouse right there. First 25, 30 games into the season. And a lot of Spurs fans got upset about that. And I mentioned that on the AlamoCity Sportscast as well, about the fact that if they were giving the award out January 5th, that award would have been given to Chet Holmgren, right? Even though Wemby was a little bit better at points, a little bit better at assists and rebounds and blocks, because Chet was playing for a team that was the number 2 seed in the West and was contributing to a winning team. Yes, SGA's there and they have a better team. But the fact of the matter is that meant something because there was not that divide. It almost felt to me like a tie went to the runner, and in this case, the runner was Chet Holmgren. But what we've seen the past 3 weeks or so since the beginning of the new year, we've seen Wemby go off and have a string of 20-plus points per game, had his first triple-double, had over 30 points the other day against the Sixers. This is a guy that has now averaged more than 20 points per game at 20.3. Oh, yeah. So once you get to a 20-point per game, you got to be looked at a different level. I agreed with Vegas casinos back on the sports books back on January 5th when they had Chet Holmgren as the leader, but now things have changed. And we've seen Chet kind of come back down to earth. He's had about 4 or 5 games in a row where he's just barely putting up any stats, getting single digits in points, whereas Wemby is going off. So I think right now that if the award was given out, Victor Wembanyama would win it. And right now you're seeing some sports books like FanDuel, for example, come out and say that Wemby is now the favorite all over again. Others, like DraftKings, were saying that they're both they have the same odds. Right. Others, like MGM, still have Chet Holmgren as the odds-on favorite to win the Rookie of the Year. But as of now, it's Wemby's to win. Wemby is the leader in my eyes right now. I think I'm trying to be as objective as possible, but man, Wemby now averaging 20 points per game. You got to ask yourself the question now. If he's averaging 28, 30 points per game between now and the early part of February, and he gets his points per game to 21, he might not only be the leader when it comes to Rookie of the Year, he might be knocking on the door of an all-star bid as one of the coaches' picks.
Yeah, I hope so too. Now we have some stat comparison between Wemby and Chet via StatHead. I'm going to put them on the screen here for you, Jimenez. Yeah. So this was, heading into the game last night versus the Thunder Spurs. As you can see, prior to that last night's game, it leans towards Wemby in most categories, from points to rebounds. You see on your screen, assists, steals, blocks, free throw percentage. Chet does have the edge in certain categories, mainly just shooting, 3-point shooting, field goal. But yeah, I mean, if they say numbers don't lie, then right there it is.
Well, if Wemby's averaging 21 points per game, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks, 3 assists, it's going to be hard to take that away from him. It was easier to take it away from him when he was averaging 18 and 9, right? It may not sound like much, but there's a huge difference between 18 and 9 and 21 and 10. Huge difference. And at 18 and 9, you can take that award away from him and say, well, he's only leading the Spurs to a 15-16 win season. But when you get to that 21 and 10, that not only is a good barometer, but keep in mind, what did Vegas predict Wemby doing this year? They predicted him being at around 18-9, 19-9.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's exceeding those expectations in his rookie season, how can you take the award away from him?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, that's why I think as of now, Wemby should win it. All right, the next comment comes from Mordecai Drake. This is right up Jimenez's alley. I don't know if we should read this. He knows what it is, but I'll read it to everybody. Mordecai Drake, he says, why the bleep did we draft Jeremy Sohan? He isn't really good at anything. Thank you, Mordecai, for that comment. Mike, you've been one of the more vocal critics of Sohan since his rookie year, even till today. There was the point guard spot, experiment that collapsed. That wasn't a good idea. He's kind of starting to come around now, but overall, I think, Mordecai, I think he's good at a little bit about everything. From his 3-point shooting has gotten better. Jimenez, he was willing to embrace the role as best he could and do what he could for the team. Now sliding back to his natural position, you're seeing him being more impactful on the defensive end. He's doing his best against, he's defending some of the NBA's best. But I think the idea with Sohan moving forward and probably in the past until now is that we're seeing him exactly why they drafted him, because he's doing a little bit of everything. Your thoughts?
Well, it reminds me of one of my favorite TV shows of all time, which is Community. And I've been going back and rewatching the episodes. And on the very first episode, Jeff Winger tells Abed, after getting to know him for a while, I now know what you're good for. I now know how I can use you.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the evolution of me and my thoughts when it comes to Jeremy Sohan, because I was highly critical of him. And I don't know if it was because of him or I was highly critical of the fact that Spurs fans believe, and there's still some, I read one on Twitter earlier today where people are like, he's a future superstar. No, he isn't.
Yeah.
He isn't. He's going to have a very long career. And I've been trying to kind of figure out exactly who he is, because people have said, oh, well, he is a Draymond Green type of player, and that doesn't really excite me. I am now going towards, well, maybe he's more of a Sean Marion, somebody who could potentially become a lockdown defender who can knock down the occasional three, but can't create a shot, but can finish them, can go get some boards. I go back.
So you're talking about like a Boris Diaw, basically.
A better version of it. He has gotten better in different parts of the game. Okay, I like him attacking the basket when Wemby has the ball at the top of the key. I love when he's doing that. He's kind of a pick and roll kind of guy. Or he's rolling to the basket. I like that. 3-point shooting has gotten better. His free throw shooting has gotten better. The shooting efficiency is slightly better. It's weird. His 3-point shooting has gone up, but his 2-point shooting has gone down. So it kind of evens out. But when I look at Jeremy Sohan, I look at Derek White. Like, there's a lot of Derek White in him, in the sense that Derek White is a glue guy. Jeremy Sohan is a glue guy. I think that they're going to be really good for really good teams. It's, can he be good for a team that is rebuilding? Like, you put Derek White on this Spurs team, Derek White ain't doing what Derek White's doing in Boston. You put Jeremy Sohan on Boston's team, Jeremy Sohan's going to be a much better player than what he is over here. It's almost like he's the cherry on top. It's just kind of weird because the cake has not been baked yet. And that's the frustrating part.
Well, we look at some of the numbers from career-wise from last year, rookie season to now. His rebounds are up slightly, 5.7 last year, 5.3. 3-point percentage, that's where, at least as of now, he's made the biggest leap. Last year, 24% shooting from three line, currently 38%. So
the 2-pointers are down 7%, though. The 2-pointers are from 52% down to 45%. He's an anomaly of a player.
That could be a byproduct of just having Wemby. You don't get the same touches. You got to defer. different spots on the court where he has to be now. But
he's a frustrating player to watch because he'll show flashes of brilliance sometimes. Like sometimes we'll watch him play defense and he'll lock down a guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the very next game, you know how we talked about the fact that Vassell kind of disappears sometimes offensively.
Mm-hmm.
He'll have 2 or 3 really good offensive games. He'll go for like 5 points or like 7 points, when that happens. But I look at like Sohan. Sohan sometimes defensively will lock somebody down,
mm-hmm.
and then the next game just give up a ton of points. And it's just frustrating because it's kind of like, man, what is this guy going to be in the future? But he's still young. He's still young. I don't see all-star potential, but I still see him having a 12, 14-year career. And I see him being a glue guy. I see him being a Derek White type of guy on a very good team. It's just whether or not that very good team is going to be here in San Antonio or someplace else.
That one-handed free throw shooting, definitely paying off this year. 80% so far, 80%. So he's almost automatic at the free throw line. And but so far, I don't think it's the extreme as the Locked On Spurs commentator just made a little while ago. Mordecai, was he good at anything? I think he's good at a little bit of everything, but it's just the consistency, as you mentioned. Consistency. Can he be consistent defensively? Locking down somebody one night and then, seeing it allowed more next night. But overall, I think he's going to be a very good player with. All right, so those were your comments left on the YouTube page, but we want to hear from you. What do you think about Mike's comments regarding Sohan and Wemby and Chet Race and Vassell? You can let him know on X at MJ Acquired Taste. Hey, what's going on with AlamoCity Sportscast?
Hey, man, we're back at it Monday through Friday, man. We had a bit of a hiccup last year with some personal things going on in my world. We started that podcast back in July. We're off and running for this year. We do sports, pop culture, nostalgic things. It's a fun show. We get it going 10 a.m. on YouTube. AlamoCity Sportscast. You can follow and subscribe there. We also post it on my Twitter account or X account at MJ Acquired Taste. We hit a milestone this week, 650 followers. Goal is to get that to over 1,000 by, let's say, March or April. Mm-hmm. And we're just off and running, man. And we kind of piss off some people sometimes on Spurs Twitter. We sometimes have a fun time when it comes to all sorts of things. It's not just sports, but you can follow us again, AlamoCity Sportscast, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. on YouTube. Again, local sports talk radio is dark at that time, so you have a choice. You can listen to Colin Cowherd, you can listen to Jim Rome, or you can listen to, for example, myself and Joe Garcia, AlamoCity Sportscast at 10 o'clock. Then at 11, you can switch it on over to In the Building with Rudy J and Mike Taylor. So,
absolutely, there you go. Follow Jimenez. Go check out his show and Joe's show on YouTube moving forward. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day, free and available wherever you get podcasts, Google Play, YouTube, Ken's 5 Plus app, Spotify, iTunes, the list goes on and on. Locked On Sports Today is a new 24/7 streaming YouTube channel. You can go subscribe to it right now. National, local, regional sports. All the hosts are there. Every sport is there. Every league is there. Go check it out. Locked On Sports Today, 24/7 streaming sports channel only on YouTube. For Mike Jimenez, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.